I've always been the quiet one in the family, not the black sheep, not the golden child, just background noise. I'm Sam, 36, no wife, no kids, and apparently, in the eyes of my brother's family, no life. What I do have is a steady job in IT, no debt, and a bank account that's weathered more storms than any of them know. For years, I played the part they wrote for me. Show up at holidays, bring the expensive gifts, cover the forgotten bills, and be grateful for a seat at the table, even if it was wobbly and next to the coat rack. But nothing prepared me for what happened last weekend. It wasn't one big blow-up. It was a smirk, a sentence, and the sound of torn wrapping paper, and that was all it took to end everything. It started at my brother Mike's house. He'd invited the whole family over to celebrate an early Christmas since they were planning a vacation over the holidays. The kind of vacation I paid for last year when they had unexpected car trouble, even though Mike showed up to my house 3 days later in a brand new truck with a Bluetooth tailgate. I didn't say anything. I never do. That's part of the problem. I got there a little after noon. The driveway was packed, so I parked 2 streets over and walked. By the time I got inside, the living room was a disaster zone, wrapping paper everywhere, kids screaming over who got what, and my sister-in-law Carrie yelling at Alexa to play Mariah Carey again. I barely got a hi from anyone except Grandma Helen, who gave me the same squinty look she always does, like she's trying to remember if I'm the nephew who's divorced or the one who never bothered. Spoiler alert, I'm the second. I spotted the PS5 in the corner, the one I'd waited 6 weeks on a restock alert to find. It was gift-wrapped with silver foil and a black satin ribbon. Mike had texted me earlier, asking if I could swing by Best Buy and pick something up for his son, Tyler. I knew what that meant. He didn't offer to pay. He never does. But Tyler's 14, and like most teenagers, he lives in a world where everything is content and nothing is gratitude. I figured, fine. Let the kid have one good memory with something I gave him. The second Tyler spotted the box with his name on it, he tore into it like a raccoon on garbage day. He didn't even read the card. Didn't look up. Just ripped the wrapping like it personally offended him. And then he saw what was inside. A PS5. Holy, he caught himself just in time, looked around for approval, and then grinned like he'd just found a gold bar. That would have been fine. I would have taken the lack of thanks and gone to refill my paper plate with soggy stuffing like I always do. But then he looked right at me and smirked. Dad says nobody would even care if you just vanished. The room got quiet for a split second. And then laughter. Not nervous laughter. Real laughter. The kind that sticks in your teeth. Mike howled. Carrie smacked the arm of the couch. Even Grandma snorted. Well, he's not wrong, Carrie said through a mouthful of cranberry sauce. You really should get a hobby or something, Sam. I didn't say a word. I just stood up. My heart wasn't racing, that would have made sense. Instead, it was that cold, hollow kind of silence in my chest. Like my body had decided I didn't need emotions anymore. I walked over to the dining table, took my phone out, and with a few swipes, froze every bank card tied to the family accounts. Mike's gym membership? Gone. Carrie's wine subscription? Canceled. The utilities bill I'd been auto-paying as a favor? Done. I opened the banking app. Transferred the emergency fund Mike begged me to set up after his last layoff, the one in my name, but for the family's sake, directly to my personal savings. Froze it. Then I opened my Venmo, refunded the $600 I'd sent to Carrie last week for Christmas decorations, and wrote a single word in the comment. Nope. Still, I didn't say anything. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed the plain cardboard box I'd brought in earlier and left on the counter, the one nobody bothered to ask about, and set it right in the middle of the table. Tyler was too busy setting up his new console to notice. Mike was opening a beer. Carrie was scrolling through Instagram, probably looking for a filter to hide the empty wine bottles on the coffee table. I didn't wait for them to open it. I didn't tell them what was inside. I just walked out the front door, not slamming it, not storming out, just walking. Calm. Like I'd finished my shift. I didn't look back. Didn't wait to see who followed. Spoiler alert, no one did. It wasn't until 2 hours later, when I was already home, on my couch, eating leftover Chinese food and watching a documentary on octopuses, that my phone lit up. First it was a text from Mike. What is this? Then another from Carrie, very funny. Fix it. Then Tyler, why would you do that? And then silence. Until one final message popped up, this time from Grandma Helen, which shocked me more than anything. All it said was, that was cruel. Even for you. I stared at the message, laughed once, and turned off my phone. But here's the thing, they still hadn't opened the box. Not then. Not yet. And inside that box was something they never expected. Something that would make them realize just how long I'd been the one holding all their lives together and how fast it could all fall apart when I let go. I didn't plan it like some movie revenge scheme. There were no whiteboards, no timeline with red yarn. Just years of quiet resentment, slowly filing itself away into the corners of my mind. I never even knew I'd do something like this until I was already doing it. But once I walked out of that house, once the door closed behind me and my name was nothing but an echo, I realized something. I didn't feel guilty. Not one bit. They opened the box that evening. I know, because Mike called. He never calls. The voicemail was shaky, clipped. "What is this supposed to mean, Sam?" he snapped. "You think this is funny? After everything I've done for you." I didn't respond, because I knew what he saw. Inside the box, I'd placed 8 envelopes, each one sealed, labeled with a name. No bows, no fancy paper. Just plain white business envelopes, like the kind you'd use to pay your water bill. Taped to the inside lid of the box was a sticky note. My handwriting, all caps. "If I'm invisible, then so is my support. Good luck." The first envelope was for Mike. Inside, a printed PDF, an official notice of removal as co-signer from the family car loan. My name scratched out in thick red ink. Alongside it, a copy of a bank transfer showing I'd withdrawn every cent from the shared emergency account, the one he'd leaned on more times than he admitted. There was also a screen grab of his Amazon card. I had full access, and he'd left it logged in, including 3 items he'd been eyeing for himself, all still unpaid for. I clicked Cancel Order before printing it. Carrie's envelope was next. Hers contained copies of 2 bounced payments, one for the family phone plan, another for the internet bill. I had been paying both, every month, quietly. At the bottom of the stack was a service disconnected notice I had scheduled to go into effect 2 days from now. I gave her time. I'm not a monster. But she'd be streaming nothing on Netflix by Wednesday. Tyler's envelope was different. It wasn't about money. It was a photo, a printed screenshot from 3 months ago. Him texting a friend on Snapchat. "My uncle's so pathetic, lol. Thinks buying me stuff makes him madder." I hadn't meant to see it. It popped up while I was helping him back up his phone during a crash. But I saved it. That screenshot sat in my phone for 3 months. I never showed anyone, never confronted him. But now, I printed it out, put it in an envelope, and wrote in Sharpie across the top, "Be careful who you mock while using their money." The 4th envelope was for Grandma Helen. Hers contained a thank you card, blank. I wanted to remind her what it looked like. I'd been sending her groceries on the 1st of every month for over a year through an Instacart subscription. I canceled it the moment I walked out. The next day, she'd be calling the store asking why her milk never came. My sister Rachel's envelope, she wasn't even at the gathering, but she was part of the rot. Her card simply read, "You once asked for $900 to help cover your wedding DJ. I paid it. You never invited me. Enjoy the silence." There were 2 more. One for my dad, one for my mom. They weren't there either. But they were complicit in other ways, in silence, in favoritism, in every shrugged shoulder and passive dig over the years. Dad's envelope had a printout of the vacation itinerary he was planning for June. A cruise. Paid, in full, by me as a surprise Father's Day gift. Canceled. Mom's had something even worse. A photo of the nursing care consultation we'd done together 6 months ago, the one she cried during, terrified of being a burden, of becoming that old woman everyone avoids. I had found the perfect facility, paid the deposit, put her name on a wait list. I canceled that too. In her envelope, I tucked the confirmation email with a sticky note on top. "Ask Mike if he'll help you pee when the time comes." That night, they didn't call again. Not one of them. But the silence didn't last. By the next morning, I had 15 unread texts. Most were angry. Carrie sent paragraphs, all caps, lots of emojis. Mike's were shorter, more venom. One simply said, "Wow, you really think you're better than us." Another, that PS5 is Tyler's. "You don't get to punish a child." A child? That child told me the world wouldn't care if I vanished. And everyone laughed. For years, I gave, and they took. Like I was the family ATM with no PIN required. I told myself I was being kind. That it was noble to be generous without expecting thanks. That maybe someday, when they saw I was always there, they'd actually notice me. But they didn't. They noticed my money. My car, when they needed a ride. My name, when the credit applications came up. But not me. And now? Now they were noticing what life looked like without me. I didn't write back. I didn't explain myself. I just let it unfold. But I knew it wasn't over yet. Because something else was in that box. Something they hadn't seen yet. The eighth envelope. Labeled simply, final. The eighth envelope had no name on it. Just one word, handwritten in black ink, clean across the front. Final. And I knew that's the one that would keep them up at night. I hadn't told them what it was. I didn't have to. They'd open it last. Everyone always saves the mystery for the end, right? It's human nature. Curiosity wrapped in fear. I imagined the scene in my head. Mike pacing the kitchen, muttering something about how I'd finally snapped. Carrie scrolling through legal forums, trying to see if she could report me for emotional abuse or financial sabotage, the irony. Tyler sulking in the corner, still clutching the PS5 controller like it was going to turn back into a pumpkin if he let go. And Grandma? Probably sipping lukewarm tea with that same judgmental scowl, rehearsing a speech about how family doesn't turn its back, even when ungrateful. And then someone would open it. Probably Mike. He never could resist being the loudest person in the room. Inside was a letter. It wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. It was honest. Printed on thick paper, folded with precision, like a resignation letter. Which, in a way, it was. It began. If you're reading this, it means I finally did what I should have done years ago. I left. Not just the house. Not just Christmas. I left you. That first line was enough to punch through the silence, I'm sure. But I kept it going. I don't expect an apology. You don't have it in you. I've watched every one of you treat me like a background prop, a wallet, a taxi, a babysitter, a mistake you only acknowledge when it's convenient. You talk about family like it's sacred, but what you mean is useful. And I'm not useful anymore. Not in the way you want. I hadn't written this out of revenge. Not really. It was clarity. The kind you only get after years of swallowing your pride and calling it peacekeeping. The letter continued. Do you remember who paid the deposit when Tyler broke the neighbor's window and you wanted to avoid police involvement? Or who pretended not to notice that loan you never paid back? Or who drove 3 hours to fix your internet because you didn't want to pay a technician? I do. I remember everything. Because I kept the receipts, literally. You said no one would care if I vanished. That's when it clicked. You already think I have. You treat me like I'm invisible, disposable. So now, I'm doing you a favor. I'm disappearing. No more money. No more favors. No more being the family's silent safety net. And the last paragraph, that's the one I knew would stick. That's the one they'd read out loud, maybe even twice. You can keep the PS5. You can keep the gifts, the time, the memories I was foolish enough to think mattered. But from this point on, I'm no longer part of your family. Don't call. Don't text. Don't apologize. This isn't a negotiation. It's a notice. I hope someday you realize what you had. I really do. But by then, I'll be long gone. And you'll be opening a lot more empty boxes with nothing inside but your own echoes. That was it. No threats. No ultimatums. Just a clean, surgical goodbye. And then I signed it, Sam. I imagined Mike holding the paper like it might catch fire. Carrie scoffing, pretending to be unbothered while she blinked too much. Tyler trying to act cool, but glancing nervously toward his father for a cue. And Grandma? I imagined her going very still. Because she's old enough to know when someone really means they're done. They didn't know yet where I'd gone. They didn't know I'd already packed a suitcase. Booked a cabin up north, by the lake where Dad used to take us before he got bitter and bored. I had no plans to come back. I was renting it for 2 months, maybe more. A little place with no Wi-Fi, no cell service, and most importantly, no family obligations. I didn't even tell Rachel, because even she had laughed when they handed me that scratch-off for my birthday and said, well, if he wins, we'll finally get that pool. I thought I'd feel empty, regretful, alone. But instead, I felt like I could finally breathe. And somewhere, hours away, in that too big house stuffed with holiday garbage and fake smiles, I knew the silence was settling in like frost. They were realizing, maybe for the first time, that I'd been the glue. And now they were cracking. I didn't hear from them for 3 days. Not a text. Not a call. Not even a fake apology typed with one hand and regret with the other. Just complete, suffocating silence. And I enjoyed every minute of it. The cabin I'd rented was small but perfect. 1 bedroom. A kitchen with wood cabinets that creaked like they were telling stories. A fireplace that took some coaxing but roared beautifully once it got going. No internet, no TV, And the only signal I had was the crackle of the radio and the crunch of snow under my boots during morning walks. I wasn't hiding. I was healing. That silence? It wasn't loneliness. It was peace. The kind of peace you don't realize you've been missing until it's so loud and pure, you start to wonder how you ever lived without it. On the fourth day, the messages started again. Mike's name popped up first. The preview read, "You're being childish. Can we talk?" Then another. "Carrie's freaking out. We need to fix this. You're part of the family." Ah, yes. Now I was part of the family. I didn't respond. Then came Carrie, 5 minutes later. "Whatever this is, it's gone way too far. You embarrassed us. Tyler's been crying all day." That one made me chuckle. Because Tyler didn't cry when he told me no one would care if I vanished. He smirked. And everyone laughed. No apology. No accountability. Just discomfort at the fallout. That's what really got to them. Not that I'd been hurt, but that I'd stopped letting them benefit from hurting me. I waited another day. Then Rachel texted. The sister who hadn't even shown up. I heard what happened. I know they went too far, but ghosting everyone isn't healthy either. Can we meet up? Ghosting? Ghosting? I'd spent a decade being ghosted at family dinners. Ignored. Overlooked. Ridiculed quietly in corners like I couldn't hear the whispers. This wasn't ghosting. This was grieving, not for them, but for the person I used to let them turn me into. I didn't reply to her either. Instead, I went for a walk. Through the thick snow and bare trees, past the frozen lake, through the woods where silence wasn't awkward, it was earned. I stood there for an hour, breathing it in. And then I made a decision. Not out of spite. Not out of rage. Out of clarity. It was time to close the book. When I returned to the cabin, I sat at the little kitchen table, poured a cup of stale cabin coffee, and began typing. Not on a phone. On paper. Real, old-fashioned, pen-to-paper letters. The kind no one writes anymore, which felt fitting, because none of them had written me anything in years that didn't involve a Venmo request or a list of things they wanted me to pick up. The first letter was to Mike. "Mike, you said I was being childish. I want to thank you for that. Because for once, I'm actually thinking like a child, one that finally understands what love should look like. It's not measured by the number of favors done or the bills paid. It's measured by laughter that doesn't sting, by words that don't break you. You taught Tyler to mock me, not by sitting him down and saying it outright, but by laughing when he did. That taught him more than any lecture could. You didn't just fail me. You failed him, too. Because you taught him that kindness is weakness and that people are only worth what they can give. I won't be part of that lesson anymore." Then Carrie. "Carrie, you always acted like I was some pathetic joke Mike brought along. You never said it, but your tone said enough. I remember every look, every sarcastic, 'Wow, you actually came,' or 'Must be nice to afford that when you don't have kids.' But here's the thing, I did not have kids because I couldn't. I chose not to. I watched how you treated the people who showed up for you and decided that being alone was better than being used. You said Tyler cried. Did you? Or are you just panicking now that your credit card isn't going through and no one's paying your streaming services?" To Rachel, I kept it short. "Rachel, we both know you've always done what's easiest. Staying quiet was easier than standing up. Not inviting me to your wedding was easier than explaining to your husband why your family treats me like a coat rack. I'm not mad anymore. I just have no more energy to explain myself to people who only notice I exist when they need help moving a couch. Even Grandma Helen got one. Grandma, you once told me that being quiet was a virtue, that I should be grateful no one asks much of me. You said I had it easy. What you never understood is that silence doesn't mean peace. Sometimes, it means we've stopped believing anyone's listening. I canceled your grocery delivery, yes. You'll be fine. You've made it clear you've lived through worse. Just don't expect me to pretend that years of passive judgment didn't leave a mark. I sealed the letters, mailed them from the little post office 2 towns over. And that was it. I didn't wait for replies. I didn't stalk their social media. I let it go. 3 weeks passed. I got one letter back. It was from Tyler, written in pencil. Messy. On-lined notebook paper torn from a school binder. "Uncle Sam, I'm sorry. Dad told me to say that, but I wanted to say it for real too. I didn't mean it when I said that stuff. I was trying to be funny. Everyone was laughing and I thought if I didn't go along with it, they'd make fun of me. I played the PS5. I couldn't enjoy it. It made me think of you. I guess I thought you'd always be around. I miss you. Love, Tyler." That one? That one I answered. Because sometimes the cycle can break, but only when someone realizes they're inside it. I wrote back. I didn't make it long. I didn't make it emotional. I just told him that forgiveness takes more than words. It takes change. And if he was willing to prove it, then I'd be willing to talk again. Maybe meet up someday. The rest? I never heard from again. Not Mike. Not Carrie. Not Rachel. Not Grandma. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Because I finally learned what boundaries feel like. Not walls. Just fences with locked gates, the kind you only open when someone knocks respectfully. The money stayed in my account. The phone stayed quiet. The air around me stopped buzzing with anxiety, and for the first time in my adult life, I slept, really slept, without wondering if someone was going to call me the next day needing $500 or a place to crash or just one more favor. And maybe they'll spin it someday. Tell people I had a meltdown, that I lost it. Let them. Because the truth is simple. I didn't disappear. I just stopped letting them pretend I was never there.